He is the most feared boxer of all times, a physical specimen, a beast whose relentless aggression, knockout power and will to win are still unmatched. A man who scared his opponents to death, a brutal force, a terrifying individual once he stepped in the boxing ring. However, he is also the sensitive, emotionally vulnerable individual who was haunted by his childhood insecurities throughout his whole life. The man whose greatest battle was far away from the ring and straight into the mirror. A man who gained and lost everything multiple times. He is the legendary Mike Tyson. Born on June 30th, 1966 in Brooklyn, New York, Michael Gerard Tyson grew up in the family of Lorna and Purcell Tyson. His biological father left him when he was 2 years old, which meant that he would adopt the last name of his stepfather Purcell. Mike's childhood was full of trouble. He grew up being bullied because of his high-pitched voice and because of the fact that he could not pronounce any words containing the letter S properly. In addition, his neighborhood Brownsville was underprivileged and full of criminal activity. Street gangs were walking all over the place, and for kids like Mike, the only way to survive was to use their fists and stand up for themselves. At home, the situation wasn't much different. His family was struggling to make ends meet. They were living in extreme poverty, while Mike's relationship with his stepfather was also full of tension. Put differently, the outside world was functioning on the principle survival of the fittest, while at home there was always the same dilemma: will there be food today or not? Living on the edge and having zero sense of security, not occasionally but at all times, Mike started to get in trouble with the law from an early age. At that stage, he had no dreams or passions. All he thought about was making some money so that he could survive the day, and that often meant engaging in illegal activities. However, this way of life could not last forever. It was a matter of time before he got caught and sent to a juvenile detention center. At 13 years of age, Mike had seen and experienced things which no kid or person in general should have ever witnessed or felt. However, the stay at the juvenile detention center turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because it was exactly there that Tyson got first noticed and then introduced to the boxing trainer Cus D'Amato. But who was Cus D'Amato? He was a very experienced boxing trainer, a man who truly loved the sport of boxing. He was a man who embraced the young Mike Tyson as his own son and taught him not only how to box, but also how to persevere, grow, and develop as a person. Completely immersed in boxing, Mike dedicated his whole youth to mastering the craft, which combined with his exceptional natural talent led to some phenomenal accomplishments in his amateur career. Accomplishments such as 2 junior Olympic gold medals, 2 amateur athletic union championships, and the 1984 National Golden Gloves Heavyweight Championship. So what else was there to prove for the 18 years old Mike Tyson as an amateur? Exactly, it was time to move up and enter the pro ranks. Built like a tank, possessing sensational KO power, and going for the finish from the very first second of the fight, Tyson quickly built up a record of 26 wins, all of which by way of knockout. His mental strength, combined with his insane power, aggression, and brutally effective peekaboo style, made him a force to be reckoned with. Yes, he was not a big heavyweight. In fact, he was only 5 foot and 10 inches tall, but his explosiveness and physical strength were on a different level. Only 20 years old, Mike Tyson became the youngest heavyweight champion in boxing history after completely outclassing and knocking out Trevor Berbick. It is important to mention that Trevor was a very solid and skilled opponent, but Mike's pressure and unhuman conditioning were simply impossible to deal with that night. Defeating Trevor meant that Tyson was now the World Boxing Council WBC champion of the world. However, Mike would not stop for even half a second. Soon enough, he he faced James Bone Crusher Smith, the World Boxing Association WBA title holder, who he completely presided over and beat with a unanimous decision. Not even 21 years old. That night, on March the 7th, 1987, Mike Tyson became the unified heavyweight champion of the world. His stocks went through the roof. He was now a celebrity, a household name. He was most definitely the most feared fighter in the world at that stage. And in actuality, we can make the argument that even today, 18 years after retiring from professional boxing, Mike Tyson is still viewed as the most dangerous and intimidating competitor in the history of boxing. But going back to that period, to that era, we can definitely say that Mike was living that champion lifestyle. He was hanging out with the most popular actors, rappers and singers. Everybody knew who he was, and nobody ever tried to test his patience. In other words, Mike was the man. However, just like I told you last time in the documentary about Floyd Mayweather, it is inevitable that childhood trauma catches up to individuals who have not managed to process it properly. As we mentioned earlier, Mike Tyson's childhood was marked by poverty and difficult living conditions, by family instability, by encounters with street gangs and violence, by disciplinary issues and juvenile detention, and thankfully by the mentorship of Cus D'Amato. Up until his 13th birthday, Mike had seen and experienced events which would leave him emotionally damaged for the rest of his life. Since he had never had the chance to work through all these traumas, it was just a matter of time before this ticking bomb would explode. The first of a number of controversies in Tyson's life was his first marriage, and more in particular, his divorce with the actress Robin Givens back in 1989. After only 1 year of being together, the couple separated, with Givens even appearing on television and describing Mike as an emotionally unstable and physically abusive man. Her accusations were of domestic violence, which definitely damaged Tyson's reputation and public image. However, the most significant controversy in Mike's life occurred in 1992 when he was convicted of raping Desiree Washington, an 18-year-old Miss Black America contestant. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison, of which he served 3 years before being released on parole. The case generated extensive media coverage and had a profound impact on Tyson's personal life and boxing career. Up to this day, he completely denies the accusations and claims that there is no truth in Desiree Washington's words. The next huge controversy in Mike Tyson's life took place in 1997 during a highly anticipated rematch against Evander Holyfield. Full of anger and bitterness, Tyson infamously bit Holyfield's ear in the third round, which led to an immediate disqualification from the match and worldwide shock caused by this ridiculous, barbarian action. Many years later, the two athletes met and spoke with each other in a civilized manner, with Mike apologizing for what he had done on that summer night in June of 1997. And if you think that this action was of brutal nature, then wait for the next one. A year later, in 1998, Tyson was involved in an altercation with two motorists in Maryland. Following a minor car accident, he reportedly assaulted both of them, which led to charges of assault and traffic violations. He was eventually found guilty and sentenced to probation and community service. It was obvious that Mike was dealing with severe aggression problems, that he was fighting some really tough demons, probably a legion of them. The out-of-the-ring altercations would continue taking place in the years to follow, with the brawl with Lennox Lewis during a press conference in 2002 being a more notable one. Apart from these physical altercations, Mike Tyson made a number of controversial statements throughout his career, most of which in interviews and public appearances, garnering plenty of media attention and a strong public backlash. Yes, his physical power was literally unmatched, but outside the ring, he was extremely emotional, extremely vulnerable. His incapability of controlling himself led him to filing bankruptcy in 2003. But how did that happen? Well, Mike's extravagant lifestyle, his legal battles, his financial mismanagement were the main causes for his financial downfall. He was consistently dealing with lawsuits from business partners, allegations of unpaid debts, and tax problems. His life was a mess. Mike Tyson's relationship with Don King, a famous boxing promoter from the 1980s and 90s, whose reputation was also not impeccable, was also characterized by legal battles and disputes. Back in 1988, when Mike was on top of the wave, completely destroying his opponents inside the ring, being looked up to and admired by millions of people around the world, he decided to sign a contractual agreement with Don King, who at that time was one of the leading promoters in the boxing world. The idea was very simple. Mike was the most popular name in combat sports, and Don King was supposed to help him maximize his earning potential. Initially, everything was going as planned. Tyson was making millions of dollars every single time that he stepped in the ring. However, as his career progressed, Mike began accusing King of taking advantage of him financially, manipulating contracts, and siphoning off a significant portion of his earnings. In addition, he claimed that Don King was exploiting his trust and lack of financial knowledge, which led to Tyson filing a lawsuit against Don King, seeking to break free from their contractual relationship. After a long, tiring, and contentious legal battle going on for a number of years, the two parties reached a settlement agreement, effectively ending their legal disputes. That happened in 2004. Over time, both Tyson and King have expressed changing perspectives on their relationship. Tyson has acknowledged his naivety and lack of financial awareness during his partnership with King. He has spoken about the lessons he learned and the need for fighters to be more vigilant in their business dealings. Similarly, King has faced criticism for his promotional tactics and handling a fighter's finances, but has also been celebrated for his contributions to the sport. As we could conclude, Mike Tyson has been involved in a number of controversies throughout his life, and as it could be seen, most of, if not all of them, were caused by his lack of self-control, his incapability of processing his emotions properly, and his impulsive decisions. His disorganized personal life had a negative impact on his professional career, which deteriorated significantly ever since he spent 3 years in jail. His later career, which could be viewed as the period between 1995 and 2005, the period between his return from prison and his retirement, was marked by some notable fights against some notable opponents, but in general, his performances were inconsistent, with him eventually becoming a shadow of his former glory. Do not get me wrong, he was still feared by everyone, he was still a killer, a vicious animal, but he lacked discipline and order in his personal life, which made him considerably less effective in the ring. But what went wrong? Why did Mike Tyson stop training on a regular basis? Why did he start using forbidden, unhealthy substances? Why did he begin wasting his money on completely useless material possessions? What happened with the discipline that his coach and mentor Cus D'Amato had taught him? While these questions are complicated and difficult to give a simple answer to, we can say that Mike Tyson had never been a person who could stick to the straight and narrow for a long time. Cus D'Amato was the father figure Mike had never had as a kid, and he gave him a real direction and purpose in his life. However, once he passed away in 1985, Cus D'Amato left Mike all alone, just like he had been throughout the early years of his childhood. But this time, Tyson was a multi-millionaire, standing on a high position in society, the heavyweight champion of the world, the one and only Iron Mike. He could afford purchasing everything. He could go wherever he wanted to. He had all the money, fame, and glory in the world. The problem was that he was not used to that. He had never experienced such abundance as a kid. In fact, he was coming from extreme hunger and poverty. In addition to that, everybody wanted to be around him. Everybody wanted to be his friend, to sit up there on the top of the mountain. Mike was powerful in all senses of the word, and people wanted to be associated with him. Unfortunately, most of those individuals wanted that for the wrong reasons, and Tyson, being young and naive, was completely unaware of their impure intentions. He started hanging out with a bad company, and it was a matter of time before his whole life went in the wrong direction. As much as Mike was scary, determined, dangerous and brutal in the ring, he was emotionally vulnerable and sensitive in the day-to-day life. Throughout his life, Mike has been open about his struggles with mental health, substance abuse and personal challenges, while his deep-rooted insecurities coming from his troubled past have never been a secret either. Possessing a complex personality, Tyson has shown remorse for his past actions, expressed regrets, and demonstrated the willingness to confront his own shortcomings. In recent years, he managed to channel his sensitivity into personal growth and self-reflection, speaking openly about his journey towards self-improvement and emotional stability. His willingness to confront his own vulnerabilities and strive for personal development has been admirable and has been and could also be viewed as proof that if one truly desires a change, they can always start, they can always give it a go. It is never too late to choose to be virtuous, morally strong and mentally steady. And that is exactly what Mike has been working on throughout the last years. Having pursued various ventures in acting, entertainment and business, Mike Tyson has appeared in multiple films and television shows throughout his life. He has also launched his one-man show called Mike Tyson Undisputed Truth, where he shares stories from his life and career. In the recent years, he has been releasing his own podcast, Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson, where he invites various guests who have achieved remarkable accomplishments in different areas of life, discussing various matters and conducting deep conversations on the true meaning of life. Mike and his guests provide valuable content for the viewers. There are a number of essential life lessons to be learned from these conversations, which is why I would recommend the Hot Boxing podcast to anyone willing to work on their personal self-improvement. Anyways, what truly inspires me about Mike Tyson and his story is the fact that he managed to pick himself up, to find the right path in life, to heal his spirit, even though he had experienced the lowest lows, even though he had been battling with some tough demons for plenty of years, even though all hope seemed to have been lost at a certain stage. Mike rose up and used all the disappointments, all the failures, all the losses which he had gone through in his own personal life to motivate and inspire people going through similar difficulties in their lives. He became a role model and showed the world that winning the battle against the man in the mirror is the key to inner peace, because there is no peace without war. Mike Tyson will forever be remembered as a warrior whose greatest battles were moral, a warrior who faced and eventually defeated his demons.